Let's Talk with Steve Gilmore on Talk Radio Europe.
Falling, flying, fleeing, they're all familiar dream motives, but what do they mean? Now, my next guest has a new book out, and it takes a new and fresh look at dreams. He's a qualified psychologist and dream expert, and he's examined the most common stories that our dreams tell us and how they can help us. Good morning, and welcome to Talk Radio Europe to Ian Wallace. How you doing, Ian?
Good, Steve. How are you?
I'm very well indeed. Listen, the previous presenter was commenting on how my show is very Scottish today. But I think he didn't know that you were Scottish because we've got Jim Kerr from Simple Minds on after you. So it's
fabulous.
I'll pick up the phone to you and a good Fife accent there from Kirkcaldy. Right, okay, are you up? Let me have a look. You're there right now. Sorry, I'm looking at the screen. I can see where I'm calling you from, Kirkcaldy. How's the weather in Kirkcaldy?
It's typical Scottish weather, Steve, so that's a low grey cloud with the threat of rain in a few minutes.
Is Jackie O's still in Kirkcaldy?
Yes, it is, but it's called something else now through the various name changes it's had, but it still has the same reputation no matter what it's called.
Okay, we'll stop that conversation now. Right.
Yeah.
Right, now, you're not just one of these new age dream experts, you're actually a psychologist, aren't you?
That's right, Steve. So I'm a qualified psychologist, and I've been working professionally with dreams for over 30 years now. And in that time, I've analysed over 140,000 dreams for my clients.
What got you into dreams, Ian, away from your normal type of psychology work?
I've just always been really fascinated by dreams, Steve. Even when I was tiny, when I was a small boy, I was just always really intrigued by dreams, and that's why I went to university and studied them, and I'm just absolutely fascinated by them.
Before we start talking about the stuff that you've been, the recurring dreams and the stuff that's in your book, are you... I was watching something just recently. Are you up to date on the stuff that the quantum physicists are looking at with regards to dreams?
Yes, there's been a lot of work on that, even stretching back into the 1950s and 1960s.
That's frightening, that stuff that they're looking at, is it not?
Well, it's an area to get into, Steve, because a lot of people treat dreams as a science, and whereas I tend to view them more as a different sort of language. So there tend to be two schools of people who work with dreams. There are people who are academics and scientists and just want to scan your brain. And as you were saying, there's all the sort of new age people who have a completely intuitive psychic take on them. And I really subscribe to neither of those schools. But the science side of it, it really frustrates me a bit, because it's kind of like your TV's not working and the TV engineer comes round and pokes in the back of your TV, and he might be able to tell you that the TV's on or off, or even what channel you're watching, but he can't tell you anything about the dream content or what it means to you. So one of the things that I did recently was this article about do we dream more in black and white as we get older? And there have been various studies that scientists and academics have done saying that we do tend to dream more in black and white as we age. And the reason for that is because we watched a lot of black and white TV when we were children. And it's just complete nonsense. We do tend to dream more and less colourfully as we get older, but it's nothing to do with the sort of television we were watching as a child.
Well, no, I've read your article on that, and I have to agree with your theory on, well, if that's true, then why did people from older generations not dream in silence
exactly.
in black and white movies, and the new generation got to dream in 3D and keep falling out the bed?
Yes, that's exactly it. So academics tend to do that. They tend to pick up on one tiny wee thing and then not see the bigger picture, which can be a shame.
And what you just touched on there, why, for people who haven't seen your article, why do you dream in black and white as you get older? Well,
it's a wee bit of a misnomer to say dreaming in black and white. It's not a binary thing of colour or black and white. It's just that your dreams tend to get a bit less colourful. So the colours might be a bit more subdued, not as vivid and bright as sometimes when you're younger. And the reason for that is dreams are quite an emotional language. So the more emotionally involved you are in a dream, the more colourful it will be, because all the dream is a message from your own self. And the more you try to get your own attention, then the more you'll turn up the colour and make things really colourful. So as you get older, then your life becomes a bit more habitual, and you tend to do the same sort of things again and again. So in some ways, in waking life, you become less of a colourful character, and that's reflected in your dreams, which tend to be a bit less colourful.
Okay, but as you've highlighted in that article, if something quite emotional in your life happens, then you tend to dream a lot more vividly in a lot more vivid colour. That's
absolutely right, Steve. So I think my oldest client just now is in her 90s, but she's recently been through quite a traumatic episode, and she was having the most colourful and vivid dreams during that episode.
Okay, now let's go back to the basics here. Why do we dream in the first place? What's going on?
That's a great question, Steve. So the reason that we dream is that we absorb lots and lots of information unconsciously during the day. So even as you and I are chatting, then we're absorbing lots of information unknown to us from our surroundings. And we can't process that information rationally or logically. So we use our dreams as a way of processing that information and extracting meaning from it.
Right, okay. So it's a way of our brain also kind of emptying what's gone on through the day?
Well, that's one way of looking at it. It's kind of like the black and white TV thing that people say, oh, dreams are just like a screensaver, or it's like a computer defragmenting a disk. But the actual dream itself, from a biological viewpoint, is absolutely vital, because it's one of the main ways that you can maintain a unique and persistent identity from a psychological viewpoint. So without looking at even what the dream means, it's a way that you actually work through what you experience and use that to create a particular perception of the world when you're awake.
Right. Now, you also maintain that if you help to understand your dreams, you can then use them to realise your most cherished hopes and aspirations in everyday life.
Yes, so we have this word dream in the English language, and it means two things. It can mean these nightly phenomena, but it also means our hopes and ambitions in waking life. And they seem to be quite separate. One's quite vague and woolly, and one's quite distant and far out there. But they actually come from the same place, and that's this unconscious awareness that we all have, the things that we're all drawn towards, the people that we want to be, where we want to go. So by understanding our dreams, then we start to understand parts of ourselves that we don't actually experience consciously. And those are the parts of ourselves that really drive us through life and help us become who we want to be and get us to where we need to be in life.
Now, you have your book out, The Top 100 Dreams, the dreams that we all have and what they really mean. So you've taken, from, you said earlier on, 140,000 dreams you've analysed and researched and spoken to people about over the last 30 years, and you've got taken the top 100 themes worldwide, because there's recurring themes, isn't there?
Yeah, so we have this thing, Steve, we have this assumption that a lot of people make, is that dreams happen to us. So we're just lying in our bed at night and all this stuff happens to us as we lie there passively. But the reverse is actually true. We actually happen to dreams. So we create everything in the dream, all the characters, all the places, all the events. And because we're all human beings, then we tend to have the same behavioural patterns. So that means we tend to dream in the same sort of patterns. So there are about 100 of these patterns that people recurrently have worldwide, and it doesn't matter what culture or creed you are, you tend to have the same sort of dreams.
Why would you have recurring dreams?
The reason for recurring dreams is that so that the dream is a message from the self, from your unconscious self. So there's something that you're trying to tell yourself, that if you do this thing in waking life, then it will change your life and help you do what you want to do. But most of us don't pay attention to our dreams. We say, well, we don't dream, or we forget our dreams. But if you don't pay attention to that dream, then you, as long as that situation persists in waking life, then you'll keep having that dream because you're trying to tell yourself this is how you can fix that thing.
Right, now, I have this maybe 3 or 4 different recurring dreams that I have, but I'll go through a phase of having this particular recurring dream or a similar themed recurring dream, and then it will go away, and then maybe another one will and then they come and go, and then it's that, and I'll maybe go through a phase where I know I'm thinking that's me having that theme again. is that reflected in some particular phase of my life, and why does it keep on coming round and round all the time?
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Steve. So it does reflect a particular situation in your life. And again, just because it's a behavioural pattern that you have, that if you find yourself in a particular situation that you find challenging to deal with in waking life, then maybe your circumstances alter in some way, so then you don't have to deal with that situation again. But if you keep getting yourself into a particular situation in waking life, just because that's your nature, that's how you are, then you'll have that recurring dream. So it doesn't have to happen all the time, it just reflects a particular situation in waking life. Right,
okay. Well, as at the start there, I touched on your falling, flying, fleeing. They seem to be very, can we just go through some of the most common recurring themes? So falling, I know, is one that is an awful lot of people have. What's behind that?
Yeah, so falling is the 7th most common dream that people have. And the usual explanation for the falling dream is to do with failure, and that's nonsense. It's nothing to do with failure. Any dream about falling it's about you need to let go. So there's something in your waking life where you're holding on far too tightly, you're trying to over-control something or micromanage it. And what you actually need to do is just let go and let things fall into place naturally.
All right. Flying?
Flying is the 6th most common dream that people have. And this is a wee aside, Steve. People often ask me, how do you know this stuff? Who decides all these dream symbols? Is there some central dream authority? And the answer is no. All these symbols and metaphors emerge from human culture. And the reason I know that is from the language that we use. So in English, for the flying dream, we've got these phrases like the gravity of the situation, a heavy responsibility, weighed down by an obligation. So the flying dream is always some sort of release from a responsibility or an obligation, and it allows us to soar higher, and it feels like we're walking on air. So this dream is often involved with someone who's doing something that's allowed themselves to be released from a responsibility.
Ah, right, okay. And that's interesting what you said about the language and how that reflects in the dreams.
Yeah, because this comes out all the time. If we just look at idioms and phrases, not just in English, but in other languages as well. So one of the most common dreams that people have is about water. And water is always to do with emotions and feelings. So we have phrases like, I'm at a bit of a low ebb, I'm pouring my heart out, trying to keep my head above water, and so on.
Right, okay. Now, you said that was the 7th and the 6th. Now, I stumbled on that by accident. What's the most common recurring theme?
The most common dream that people have just all over is being chased. And what being chased means is, again, just coming back to the words, we have this word in English, pursuit. And a pursuit is actually being chased, or it's something that we are really drawn to or fascinated by. It's something that we are chasing ourselves. So if we dream of being chased, then there's some pursuit that we have in waking life that's really, really meaningful to us, and we're trying to pursue that particular ambition, but we're finding some frustration or obstacle in our waking life. And this dream is about ways of dealing with that particular obstacle. There's a really fascinating thing you can do in any dream, but particularly the chase dream. And in the dream, you need to practice this a little bit, but in the dream, you can actually turn round and ask your pursuer, whether it's a man or a monster or a gang, ask them who they are and what they need, and they will give you a very specific answer, and you'll be able to use that information in your waking life.
Now, you say that, but is that not quite difficult to do? To put, be aware that you're having a dream and then say, oh, this is a dream, and ask the question. Is that a technique you can use?
Yeah, so there's a whole lot of techniques and there's a whole lot of science around this, but there's a really simple way to do it. And it can take a few nights to do it, so you have to be persistent. But as you lay your head on the pillow and as you're going to sleep, you just say to yourself, tonight I will speak to my pursuers. And just by setting that intention, the first few times you might start turning round and might start getting worried and run off again or wake up. But the more you keep doing that, then at some point in the next few days, you'll start to get answers coming back. And it may not just come back in the dream, it might just happen during the day. You might just be walking down the street and suddenly these answers will pop into your head and you'll know what you need to do.
Right, now, there's a few listeners have phoned in with some dreams, which I want to come to in a minute, but can we just knock this one on the head? Dying in your dream?
Dying, yes. So a lot of people get really upset about dying dreams, and that's because they take the dream literally rather than metaphorically. So dying in a dream is nothing to do with death. It's all about transformation. It's all about leaving something behind so you can step into a new future.
Okay, and the other one, which was mentioned just before we came on, your teeth breaking or falling out, or as has happened to me on a few occasions, not for a long time though, you know, me closing my mouth and actually my teeth all just shattering into pieces.
This dream is all about confidence and power. So we think when we use our teeth in waking life, when we show our teeth to other people, we tend to do it in two situations. One when we're happy and confident, when we're smiling, and one when we're trying to assert ourselves, so we're snarling a bit. So when we dream that our teeth are falling out, there's some situation in waking life where we feel we could be more confident, and we don't know how to achieve that confidence. So if you dream that you close your mouth and your teeth all shatter, there's something in waking life where you haven't been able to say what you really need to say, and that's shattered your confidence.
Right, okay. I'm glad that's not happened for a while. Glad I got that in at the beginning. Right, okay. Now we had Patricia from Fengarola, if you're listening, Patricia. She has a recurring dream where she is looking for her lost dog. Her dog isn't lost, never has been lost, but she's looking for this lost dog. And it is, although she can't see the dog because it's lost, it is in her head her own dog she's looking for.
Anytime we dream about an animal, then we're dreaming about some aspect of our own character. And that aspect is usually around our instincts and impulses, how we behave naturally. And when we dream about a dog, we're usually dreaming about our ability to be really loyal and affectionate to someone else. So when Patricia's dreaming that her dog is lost, then there's some issue around loyalty and affection in her waking life. So she maybe feels that she's looking for someone to be really loyal and affectionate to her, and she's really missing that in her life in some way.
Okay, now we've got John up in the Costa Blanca, who was on the buses for 30 years and then had his own milk round company for 15 years, and he's retired out here, and he has a recurring dream where he's back on the milk again, but it's all confused, it's not the same as it was before, and very often he's delivering the milk from the bus.
This is the 95th most common dream that people have, which is going back to your old workplace. And this is a fantastic dream that John has, because one of the things that people tend to forget about dreams, they always think that dreams are quite scary and disturbing, is dreams are tremendously creative and quite funny. So yes. Here's John delivering milk from his bus. So we think about what milk means, Steve, and when we dream about milk or any sort of food, it's usually about our ability to look after people, and milk especially to do with kindness. So John in waking life is probably a really kind person, and he spends a lot of time looking after other people. So that's why even now that he's retired and he's moved on from these businesses, he's still travelling around and he's dispensing kindness and looking after people.
From his boss.
Yeah.
Right. There's one I'm going to leave to the end. Eufina out in Malaga. She used to work for a shipping company for 25 years and always had a fear of going up the gangway onto the boat with the supplies. And now she's finished doing that, but she still has this recurring dream that she's got to get onto a boat. The water underneath, there's a gap between wherever she is and the boat. It can be sometimes a mountain, but she has to get onto the boat, or a bridge, or something else representing the gangway. But underneath is black, horrible. The water's black and horrible with things in it. That's her description. And she's terrified. She's always terrified in it.
So we're talking about water, Steve. So anytime we dream about water, it's about our emotions and feelings. And a boat symbolises how we navigate through our emotional life. So in this dream, the dreamer's trying to navigate through quite a tricky emotional period in her life. And it's about a decision she has to make. It's about an emotional decision that she has to cross something, whether it's the gangplank or a bridge, or get up this mountain. It's a bit of an uphill struggle for her to actually make this decision. So she needs to cross some barrier and make this decision to actually start to navigate through this difficult emotional period. And her anxiety in waking life is if she doesn't manage to do this, then she'll land in this really black mood, which is symbolised by the black water, and that will be full of horrible things. So it's about making an emotional decision in waking life to leave some parts of the past behind so she can actually navigate through her emotions and go where she really wants to go.
All right, and then finally, she's asked not to give her name out, this lady. She's had 3 occasions where she's dreamt of future events, tragic events, which has happened. And I know I've spoken to about this a few times, actually. So much so that she now does everything she can to not dream. So she takes sleeping tablets, and it's really affected her quite badly.
Yeah, that's actually, it's not something I would recommend, trying to suppress your dreams, because your dreams are always trying to tell you something. So a lot of people have these so-called precognitive dreams, where they dream that some future event is going to happen, and then it does. So there's a couple of things around that, Steve. One is that the population of Earth is nearly 7 billion now. We, on average, each have 5 dreams a night. So there are 35 billion dreams a night on Earth. And at least one of those has to come true in some way. Just by the nature of chance, it's just a dream lottery. The other thing is, in a precognitive dreams, we were talking about our unconscious awareness, and it tends to project into the future. So we have this trajectory of what we feel may happen. So it's kind of like watching a football or a frisbee coming towards you. You kind of know where it's going to land. So our unconscious awareness, even in everyday life, tends to work 2 or 3 days ahead. And for some people who are more attuned to their unconscious awareness, it might be a few weeks. So this is either a dream where this lady is actually projecting something into the future because she unconsciously knows that will occur, or it's just a coincidence.
Okay, right. Now, unfortunately, we're running out of time. I'd love to speak to you a lot more. Listen, you said there 5 dreams. How long is the average dream?
When we go to sleep, so we have 5 sleep episodes per night, and those last for about 90 minutes. In the first sleep episode, we dream maybe for 10 to 15 minutes, and in the final one before we wake up, it's about 35 to 40. So we dream for about an hour and a half to 2 hours per night.
Wow. Okay. And I've noticed when you're in that coming round thing in the morning, you know, where you kind of dozing on and off, that's when your dreams can be at the kind of craziest.
Yeah, that's an absolutely brilliant stage, Steve. It's called the hypnopompic stage, and it's just when you're waking up. And that's a very good time to go back into a dream and maybe ask your pursuer about something, or to practice lucid dreaming, where you actually start to take control of your dreams.
Right, okay, because I've also noticed at that stage, if you're doing that kind of thing, you can actually wake up and then get yourself back into that dream again, can't you?
Yes, you can. And one of the key tips for going back into a dream, or even just remembering a dream, is not to move your body at all. So don't move your hands, don't even wiggle your toes. Just lie there still, and the more still you can lie, the more of your dream will come back, or you'll slip back into the dream you're having.
Oh, right, okay, I've just extended this. I've given us an extra minute. I've dropped something out and given us an extra minute here, just because I'm enjoying this. There's so much more I could speak to you about. When a lot of the times you dream, people, they say, "Oh, write down your dream," but the dream has gone within seconds of you waking up.
Yes, so that's the best thing to do, is just to lie there really still, because within 5 minutes, 50% of the content will be gone, and within 10 minutes you've lost about 90% of it. So if you can just lie there still for a minute without having to get up and do something, or if you've got children jumping in you or anything like that, if you can just lie still for a minute, then you'll start to retrieve a lot of your dream content.
Okay, right. Ian, thank you very much for joining us this morning. It's been fascinating to speak to you. The book is called The Top 100 Dreams. It's by my guest this morning, Ian Wallace. Ian, thank you so much. What's next for you?
The next book I'm working on is called Your Dream Life, and that's how to use all the information that you create in your dreams to actually achieve your hopes and ambitions in the waking life.
Okay, Ian Wallace, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Have a lovely weekend, Ian. Good to speak to you.